Alright, so since we're almost like halfway through the year, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about like what movies I've seen and talk about where the rankings are for them so far. Now, obviously, yes, we still have several more, like I said, we're only halfway through the year, and, well, basically almost halfway through the year, and we still got several movies, a lot of which I want to watch. Like, again, Quiet Place, Alien, Wolverine and Deadpool, Joker 2, movies like those. And the thing of it is that I did this, like, last year, talking about, how many, like, talking about the movies I've seen so far, and talking about, like, my enjoyment of them from least to best. And again, this list will change. When we get to at the end of the year, when it's my top 10 movies of 2024, this list will have no doubt changed. And I get my 10 movies that I really enjoyed this year. So, yeah. So far I've seen 14 movies this year, both streaming and otherwise. And I thought it'd be kind of fun because I did this before, and it's really kind of nice to talk about like where I am now to where I'll be with these films. And also, if you want to check out any of the movie reviews for these films and my full thoughts on them, just hit the link below, head on to my Patreon, hit the first tier. That allows you access to the movie reviews, polls, and the episode reviews. Like I said, I'll be doing episode reviews of Star Wars The Acolyte over there on Patreon. But, other than that, hope you all enjoy this. And actually, no, let's go through some rules. Like I said, I've only seen 14 movies so far as of this recording. And again, so I haven't seen every single movie out in the past few months. So, there's that. And also, if you think a movie should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. I'm always excited. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm always excited to see where you guys stand with these films. Or your own set of films that you've seen so far. So yeah, we're gonna go from least favorite to favorite of the list. So let's get started starting at the bottom tier. It's The Strangers Chapter 1. Fuck this movie. I really enjoyed The Strangers and its vastly different sequel, Prey at Night. But after, to give you a hint of how much I fucking hated this movie, I was 10-15 minutes into the film and thought to myself, I spent money on this. I spent money on this fucking piece of garbage. And I hated this film so much. It was only 90 minutes long, and it felt so much goddamn longer. It felt so much longer. Not only that, it blows my mind that this film made more than any of the other more deserving horror films this year, and now both of those films, the rest of the trilogy is going to come out. I'm not going to go see them. I really am not going to go see those films. I am not going to go watch chapters 2 and 3. I will wait for streaming for those other films. I am not giving my money to these films again. Yeah. So that's the only film so far that I have vehemently hatred for. From here, a little further on, it's movies I just have no care for, just generally disliked. So speaking of Out of Darkness. Out of Darkness really fooled me. It really fooled me because it started as a cool, the idea is it's a caveman horror story and they're battling a monster in the darkness of this island. And yeah, I'm just gonna spoil it because it's been out for a while. It's not monsters. It's just Neanderthals pretending to be monsters. It pulls a fucking The Village. It fucking pulls that ending, but with cavemen. And I will give it credit. The one thing I liked is that there is some genuinely great atmosphere to this film, as well as some nice cinematography in this film, as well as some genuine scares. I was oh shit! And then the ending came, and I fucking hated it. I despise the ending, and it had the audacity to go, maybe we were the only monsters. That whole ending. And I said out loud, fuck off! So, it only, because of cinematography and the idea of a primeval horror story, was really cool. It's just everything else fucking sucked. Anyway, moving on now to the next film, and here, it's just movies I just do not, these next few films are movies I just do not, I rewatched and was man, these are not good. Starting off with Damsel. Damsel Damsel, I when I first watched it on Netflix, and you can go check out the review here on YouTube because it was a streaming film and I separate the two. Damsel, I liked at the beginning, but then I rewatched it and I was like, hang on, I'm noticing like the plot, like the plot problems and like certain storytelling, and it's not like, oh, Mary Sue stuff. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is like there's just some dumb decisions, and also in the writing where I was like thinking, like if you really think about it, there's some major plot holes in here. Like why would the I'm gonna spoil this film. Why would Elodie, Millie Bobby Brown's character, team up with the dragon after the dragon just murdered her father right in front of her and tried to eat her sister right in front of her? Like, why? And then, like, the whole thing of, like, this family has been sacrificing princesses for eons, for decades, to this dragon. And also, many of them were, like, of different races. And I'm not saying, like, only, like, I'm not trying to say, it's too woke. I'm like, if the dragon's smart enough to, like, is capable of thought and also speech, wouldn't the dragon be like, hey, why do all the princesses of this kingdom look so different from each other? At no point did the dragon, like, have 2 seconds of thought on that. And then there's, like, other dumb shit in the film. And also, I've said this before, none of the Stranger Things cast are good actors. Like, I've said this before, outside of, like, Stranger Things, none of the Stranger Things actors have impressed me with acting. Not Finn Wolfhard, not anyone else, and certainly not Millie Bobby Brown. It's kind of like with Emily Clark, where, like, you see her in Game of Thrones, and you're like, oh man, she's such a great actress, and then you see her in other stuff, and you're like, is it the same actress? What? Yeah. So, again, rewatching this movie, I liked it so much, but then rewatching it and thinking about it, I was like, man, this movie sucks. I will say that there are some things I like. I like the fantasy setting. I do like the dragon design. There are some pretty hardcore, like, death scenes in here for a PG-13 movie. This is, like, hard PG-13 film. I haven't seen this kind of level of creature gore in a PG-13 film since, like, Rampage. So, yeah. That's why I think I put it a little higher. Next up, Sting. This is a movie that I had a lot of hope for, and, then I watched it, and while the practical effects are good for the spider, the story and the other characters that you have to focus on really suck. Like, the whole family dynamic really sucks. The main character, who's, like, aping all of his comic book ideas off his supposed stepdaughter. Well, not supposed, his actual stepdaughter, excuse me. And he basically, whenever she tries to bring up her dad, he, like, low-key changes things because he's, like, an asshole about it. And then he's like, when he reveals this whole thing about, your dad really doesn't like you, he basically just destroys her reality without even thinking about it. And I'm like, these are the characters we have to follow for the whole film. Great. Again, I think there's some great scares in the film that's very atmospheric, and again, the spider effects are from Weta Workshop, the people behind, like, Lord of the Rings and whatnot. So, I do think there are some good some good creature effects and some good scares with the film, but it's not great. And besides, there's another spider movie that did it better. We'll get to that one in a bit. Next up, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Another film I liked, and I think there are some things to like about this film more than Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I fucking hated. That was Ghostbusters Afterlife. I rewatched it recently, and I'm like, this is still a fucking chore to watch. Frozen Empire is a little more fun, but after rewatching it, I come to the realization that I'm like, they are doing way too much in this film. Like, this feels like it should have been like a 3-hour movie that got chopped down. And also, the main villain, Garaka, is a cool villain. Pun not intended. But, like, they don't utilize him until, like, the last few minutes. He's not, like, an overarching threat. And you could say, but, Vigo and Gozer weren't seen until the last few minutes. Yeah, but their effects of the film were throughout. It really does feel like Garaka's whole story and his whole, like, return is buried under, like, this new era of Ghostbusters. Ray trying to not feel old and retired. Ray Winston building his own Ghostbusters team. Kamal Nanjiani being like a firebender. It's buried under all of that, and also a lot of the jokes are not great. This film forgets Finn Wolfhard can't talk. Finn Wolfhard is in this movie, and most of those scenes are with Slimer. Hell, I literally forgot Finn Wolfhard was in this movie halfway through, and then I see him again, and I'm like, wait, oh yeah, you are in this movie. There are some cool, like, practical effects, and it does have that reminiscent of the original 80s cartoon, of the real Ghostbusters cartoon, but, like, watching again, they're doing too much with this film, and not enough for the main story. So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on now to... So that's all the bad movies. From here on out, these are movies I think I genuinely like so far. Yeah, these are like, the first few, like, those 5 were the films I thought were just bad, ranging from bad to terrible. Here on out, these are movies I've liked so far. Starting with Bob Marley, One Love. Is it a little inaccurate? Yeah, but every autobiography film is inaccurate these days. I will say, as like a fan of the Bob Marley films, I think are really good. It was Bob Marley music. I really loved it and how they utilize it. I also like the main actor playing Marley. And I love how it talks about, like, not so much his music, but more about his political like, how he affected the country of Jamaica politically. You have to understand, really, Bob Marley literally kept a country from tearing itself apart in that time period. Like, it was so close to just all-out civil war in Jamaica, and he somehow managed to stop the country from ripping itself apart. So I really like that aspect of the story. Is it a little inaccurate, and I feel like it kind of meanders a bit? Yeah. But at the same time, I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, moving on now to Infested. Infested is a fucking great... It literally, like, it's kind of like... It's weird that we have 2 giant spider films that take place in apartment complexes dealing with giant spiders, and they all happen in the same month. It's weird that it's like, if I had a nickel for that, fuck, I ruined the joke. You know what I'm trying to say. You know the whole Doofenshmirtz joke. Sorry, I fucked up the joke. But it's weird it's happened twice, right? Like, it literally happened, both these movies came out in the same month. So, Infested is a French horror film involving giant spiders in a apartment complex. It literally does everything Sting tried to do, but does it better. Are the characters still a little dumb? Yeah. But the creature effects, the spiders, all of that is great. I love this movie. I rather enjoyed this movie. I think it was a pretty solid film, honestly. I think this was a pretty solid horror film. It's definitely like if Arachnophobia took itself seriously. That's the best way to describe it. It's on Shudder right now if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you do. Next up, Late Night with the Devil. Late Night with the Devil, I was excited for this movie, and I couldn't wait to see this film. And when I watched it on Shudder, I can't, like, how David Dastmalchian is such... It showcases how good of an actor David Dastmalchian is. And I also like that whole little reference to Berwyn, which is, again, a nice little reference to Svengoolie. Because apparently Dastmalchian really loves, like, old horror hosts. In fact, I think he wrote a comic called Count Crowley, and it was about, like, a horror host who actually fights monsters. I kind of want to read that comic. But Late Night with the Devil has some great practical effects. It has, like, it captured... Very rarely do you see a film in this day and age capture an era of... because it's supposed to be set in 1977. Capture a era so perfectly, down to, like, the filming, to the shooting, to everything else. It's actually... I love this film. The one thing I don't like is the use of AI for the pictures. I know the whole story is that they were using AI to touch up the pictures, but still, I don't like the idea of having AI in my films. I really hate the idea because it takes away from from an actual artist. So, That's the one problem I have with the film, really. But other than that, this is a great, solid horror film. Speaking of solid horror films, we have Abigail. Remember when I said, like, remember when I said the whole thing of, like, The Strangers has been taking away from legit horror films? Well, Abigail was one of those legit horror films. It's one of the best modern-era Universal monster films, because this is supposed to be a remake of Dracula's Daughter. It's from the guys who made Radio Silence, behind, like, the people from Radio Silence, the guys behind Scream 5 and 6, and Ready or Not. It's got some great gore, some great characters. Kevin Durand really steals the show in the film. Dan Stevens is also great. Everyone's Melissa Barrera, Catherine Newton. Everyone is great in their roles, and I hate the fact that no one went to go see this movie. It kind of disgusts me that no one went to go see this movie. I absolutely adore this film. Hopefully the Blu-ray sales will be better. Anyway, moving on now to the most recent film I saw as of this recording, Furiosa. This movie kicked a lot of ass. Anya Taylor-Joy, it was kind of like, not to go too far into the film, because if you want to get my full thoughts, just hit the link below. But Furiosa, Anya Taylor-Joy did exactly what I thought she would. It was, like, grow on me as the character of Furiosa. As the film went on, I'm like, damn, she really can be Furiosa. And Chris Hemsworth steals the show as Lord Dementus. It's a great action film. Go watch it now. That's all I'm going to say. Next up, honestly, these last four films have been, like, the top. These last four films are the best films I've seen so far. Furiosa, great. Abigail, great. But these four are the ones that I absolutely love the most. So, starting off with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This film had a lot riding on it because it was a new trilogy. It was a sequel trilogy to a great film franchise, and I was genuinely concerned they weren't going to hit the mark. Well, they hit the mark and then some. Again, Kevin Durand as Lord Proxima. Proxima Caesar. He's a great villain. The main story of Noah, the new chimp, it's a great character journey for him. And I'm very excited to see where the next two films go. I really hope this new trilogy continues, because it left on such a great note. And I'm very excited, because again, I feel like the one thing I really like about this film the most is that it's not like with the Star Wars trilogy where there's a 30-year gap, and you have to use a lot of the characters, just for marquee value. Here, it's like we're in that universe, but we do get mentions of, like, Caesar and his whole life. But really, the movie can be its own thing, because it's set, like, I think 200 years after Caesar's death, and it has a great message about the dangers of, religion being used in a violent manner. Great film, absolutely loved it. And speaking of monkeys, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire. Yeah, you probably knew this was going to be on so high on this list. But yeah, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, great film. It's such a love letter to the Showa era. It's ridiculous, it's dumb, but goddammit do I love it. Scar King was a great new addition to the, Kaiju Rogues Gallery. The world building in Hollow Earth is really cool, and the fight scenes are just phenomenal. Absolutely love this movie. Next up, we have Boy Kills World. First off, I think it's criminal that this movie only made $1.8 million. Yeah, only $1.8 million at the box office. This is one of the best action films I have seen in my life. It's got it's got great dark humor to it, phenomenal action scenes. It's up there with, like, my favorite action film, The Raid Redemption, which is funny because it actually has the same character. It has one of the characters from The Raid Redemption as a villain again. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I am gonna buy the Blu-ray of this, and I hope you all do too. It's a phenomenal action film. It's a great love letter to action films, video games, and everything else. And also, having H. John Benjamin play, like, the narrator of the voice, as the voice in Bill Skarsgård's character's head, is actually kind of funny. There's some great, like, line delivery from him. Anyway, And finally, my favorite film, my reigning defending champ of my favorite film so far of 2024 is The First Omen. This is by far one of the best horror films I've ever watched. And keep in mind, I was never a big fan of The Omen. I mean, I understand its importance to the horror genre, but I personally was like, on the whole thing the whole time. I've never been like, oh my god, The Omen. I went to go see this because I heard really good things about it. I was like, alright, I'll see for myself. It's a cool little prequel to it. And I even on this channel, I made fun of it. But then I saw it, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. And it's also taught me, between this and Saw X, to shut my fucking mouth and just watch the movie and then, give my thoughts then. Like I said, it's so as of right now, it is the reigning defending champ as my favorite film of 2024. But again, that could change. We've still got a lot of movies left in this year. So there you go, guys. That's my rankings for the movies I've seen so far this year. You guys tell me in the comments below where do the films that you've seen so far this year rank for you so far? I think I said so far like 3 times. I apologize. But yeah. Just let me know, and once again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm always excited to hear what you guys stand on all of this. And again, just let me know in the comments below so far in the year, where do the movies that you've seen this year rank for you? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.